Hello and welcome back to Let That Sink In. My name is Tiffany Smith and I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications here at PM and Associates, joined by my co-host Todd Morgan, outside sales rep in St. Louis. How you doing, Todd?
Wonderful. Thank you. Good to see you.
Wonderful. Good to see you too, as always. We are in episode 20 of Let That Sink In. And today we are joined by Mitch Whittington, Regional Sales Manager of MGI Kwik Ship Brands. How you doing today, Mitch?
Very good. Excited to be here with you guys. Thank you for having me.
We are so excited to have you today. Mitch, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Give us a quick bio and what it truly means to be the regional sales manager of MGI and all their Kwik Ship brands.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been around the plumbing industry for a long time. My father's spent about 20 years in it. So I grew up in Geneva, Illinois, which is a western suburb right outside of Chicago. Went to school at Illinois State, just a couple hours south of there, and then off to Houston to start my career at the wholesale level with Morrison Supply down there. After about a couple of years there, I got into the manufacturing side, and then in 2002, got the opportunity to join on to Morris Group, a family-owned business, something that I keep very closely into my personal goals and beliefs. And so today, I am the regional manager for our Kwik Ship brand. So that includes things like Chronomite, Terrazzo, our Elm Door access panels, with a very heavy focus in Murdoch, with my background being in water coolers for about the last 8 years. So I manage the central region. So I manage the relationships with our representatives in the territory, as well as our wholesale partners, contractors, all the way down to our end users and maintenance departments where these products get installed. So I cover everything from El Paso all the way to Michigan and just about everything in between. So I get the great opportunity to work with PM in all of their locations.
That's awesome. That's great. So yeah, and Murdoch has been around for over 100 years. So could you give us a little bit more of a brief history of Murdoch specifically and how they became a part of the Morris Group International today?
Yeah, absolutely. So Murdoch's a fantastic company to be a part of. Bob Murdoch, who's fifth generation of the Murdoch family, is still the head of the company here still to this day. So they came over in the early 1800s, actually started the business out of Ohio in 1853. So we do get to boast that we are 170 years old now, which makes us, if not the oldest, one of the oldest in the entire plumbing industry, which we're very proud of as well.
That's great.
So they started their expertise with the first patented freeze-proof ground hydrant, so those guys could be able to keep those units running all winter long, not have to blow them out or pay for those things. And today we're a major manufacturer, designer, supplier of everything on the stainless steel, indoor and outdoor drinking fountains, bottle fountains, pet stations, even hand washing stations. Very, very focused around sustainability, functionality, those type of things. So Bob Murdoch and Don Morris have been business partners for about 20 years. I think it started in 2004 on a handshake at a trade show.
Yeah.
But they've known each other for quite a long time. They met about 40 years ago. Both of their fathers, both Don and Bob's fathers, were in the industry as well. Knew each other through ASPE, so the American Society of Plumbing Engineers, and just had a really lifelong friendship that turned into a fantastic partnership today.
That's very cool. We actually had the luxury of having Bob Murdoch as one of our very first Let That Sink In podcast guests.
Yes.
And the man's energy is infectious. I mean, he has such a great passion for Murdoch, and he should, because it's a great company that Bob Murdoch has built over all these years through his family, and then where they are today with the MGI group. So having Bob on was pretty awesome. But let's face it, the success that we've had out in the field has come with the help of you, Mitch, our regional sales manager. This is Mitch is a guy that we work with every day. And when I say every day, literally, I mean, I think we're on the phone just about every single day with, if it's not me, Mitch, it's somebody else in the PM office. And you have just been such a great help to us. And that's where a lot of the success in the field has come from, is the help of Mitch. So excited to have you here on Let That Sink In, and we really appreciate you being here, Mitch.
Well, absolutely, Todd. Thank you for those kind words. But, as you said, it's fantastic being able to work for a family-owned business where, when Bob needs to come out into the field with us and go see those contractors, whether we're getting dirty on a job site or meeting in a conference room, he's always there for it, there for the challenge. And that's, again, the big business, the big benefit, of working with a family-owned business is, the owner is always one call away, always picks up the phone. And of course, we couldn't do it without the massive success of our local reps as well.
Yeah, I've had guys come back from buying group meetings, and they're like, "I actually met with Bob Murdoch," and I'm like, "Right, exactly. I mean, you're meeting the name that's on that product, and you can't get any closer, right? You can't get any closer than talking to the person whose name is on the unit itself." So it's kind of fun when you hear people coming back from the meetings actually talking to Bob Murdoch. They seem to get a real kick out of it. I know we did.
Yeah.
He's very heavily involved, and he's a great asset to have on the team. There's nothing better than going right to the source. They're very proud of it. It's, generations of their family's name. And we want to make sure that, the products that we're putting out into the field, carry on that reputation.
Well, I think there's a lot to be proud of. We've got a lot of great features in the Murdoch units. And Tiffany, I think that's something we want to talk about, actually.
So let's talk about the success that PM and Associates has had with the Murdoch line in such a short amount of time, really. Obviously, the sales team is out there pushing and promoting the product, but let's talk about what makes the Murdoch unit the better choice for both the contractor and the building owner, Mitch.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the greatest things at Morris Group and Murdoch is we have a fantastic team of engineers. We're always looking to innovate, take the feedback that we get from our engineering partners, our architect partners, our guys in the field who wrench on these units, and create a better, more functional product. To the owner, we can do full customization on these units. They can highlight their brands, their features, their sustainability as well, that you see in a lot of airports who put up those types of signage. That's something that we can do very well. We also, our product as a base is almost more vandal resistant than everybody else's. We utilize almost exclusively stainless steel throughout the entire product everywhere that we can. Makes it a very nice, long-lasting, long-term product for these people who aren't having to replace as frequently as they may with the competition. So for these building owners, that's a nice advantage for them as well. So very designed and engineers around those needs. For the contractors and things like that, we're going to focus very heavily, and you might hear me even get a little bit repetitive around the maintenance advantages of these products. Things that we've redesigned the product, change aspects of it to make it easier to install, easier to repair, easier to replace and maintain. One of the biggest things that we have is our auto stop valve. So the push button where you actually are placing your hand on that product, telling that product to dispense water out through the bubbler. That valve behind there is actually a patented technology with Murdoch that we call our auto stop feature. So it's got a few different features in it. First and foremost, every single one of our units is going to come with a maintenance key that is going to help do a lot of these different features. Todd will show that on the screen. That said, we don't want people to be fearful of, what happens if that gets lost or misplaced. Needle nose pliers and a set of Allen wrenches will be able to do all the things that tool has. We just want to make sure that those guys have multiple of those on site. So what that key is going to be able to do is actually take the strainer out of the bottom of that plastic valve that sits right behind that push button. And what that's going to do is it allows you to take some of the large pieces of the debris that, either an unfiltered unit didn't catch, or some of the large things in some of the areas in our country with harder water. You'll be able to drain that out, strain out those large pieces of debris. Also, when that strainer is removed from the product, it actually shuts off that valve. So it isolates that water on the inlet side of the valve, does not let it go to the outlet to the bubbler, which allows these contractors to change that regulator out right from the front of the unit without having to shut off the water supply at the wall of our product. So they don't have to get down on the ground, pull the shroud off, shut the supply off, and then get to work.
Yeah.
Now they can get right to business. Most contractors on competing products we talk to says it takes them around an hour and a half to change this regulator valve on some of the competition who utilize a solenoid system as opposed to our mechanically operated product, where they can change it out in around 60 to 120 seconds. Very simple, very easy.
That's awesome.
Fantastic.
One of the things that Bob said when we had him as a guest, and it resonated.
And you said 60 to 120 seconds.
Yeah.
That's
super
incredible.
Easy. So that, that system in there is just a ceramic cartridge, very similar to what's in the handles of your faucets in your lavatories of the restrooms. So they get debris in there, they get dirty, they get damaged. So we make it very easy. It's a very inexpensive part. And with it being one of the more common things these guys are doing, we wanted to make it incredibly easy and quick for them to do.
Wow.
Yeah. Bob Murdoch had said that, at the end of the day, for the person who's walking up to that unit, it just needs to deliver a tasty drink of water, right? That's all it's for the, I guess you call it the consumer, if you will, or the end user, but it's the owner of that unit that has to maintain it, that these advantages are so huge. The person who's coming up and casually filling their water bottle, that they don't realize the advantages that this cooler has. But for the person that's going to have to wrench on that, you talk about a difference of an hour and a half or 120 seconds, I think you said. That's pretty substantial.
The time and money saved.
Oh, huge.
Is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. From the owners, they look at, what you call the user experience, how is that experience of that customer walking up, taking a drink, it places like you look at an airport, they're very heavy use environments, if a unit's down for 6, 8, 10 hours, that's hundreds of thousands of people having a bad user experience by not being able to get a cold or filtered drink out of that product. So by taking every aspect of the maintenance and making it take as little time as possible, they're able to get that unit back up and running and back into, some of the back of house stuffs, managing large valves and things like that are, very high dollar, very high priority.
I just think it's genius, and it doesn't take that much thought, but it does at the same time, right? And I just think it's brilliant, the approach that Murdoch has taken to really getting out there and marketing the maintenance advantage, because again, it delivers a tasty glass of water, right? But the folks who are going to have to work on this thing, it's just such a when I say a huge advantage, it's huge. When we present this to school districts who have multiple units now, they're not maintaining one or two, they've got tons of these things throughout an entire school district. That seriously equates to a lot of money, and of course a ton of time saved, which of course equates to a lot of money saved. So that's one of the fun things that we've had to go out and talk about Murdoch, is that maintenance advantage. Actually, it's so unique in a sense that it's such an easy lead in to talk about this product, and somebody who might not be real interested because they're like, it's a drinking fountain, right? And then as soon as you begin to talk about just the few features that Mitch just mentioned, that you got their attention and they want to talk to you about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest things that you see in, a lot of workplaces, whether it's an office environment or a field construction site, is, the health and ergonomics of the people working there. So our biggest goal is, to make a water cooler what it was 40, 50 years ago, is once that is installed and hung on the wall, you can essentially set it and forget it and let it just do its job. So one of the biggest things that we've done is the biggest maintenance features. I know we've talked about the valves and the regulator changeouts, but our goal for these contractors is once that product goes up on the wall, they never have to get down on the ground and remove bolts, that are up above their head, looking up onto the bottom of the product and get that shroud off. A lot of the competitors, you always have to shut the water off to do anything within the product. With us, you can do almost every piece of maintenance while the unit is still under water pressure. Our auto stop valve allows you to do that on the actual regulator portion of it, but we also install ball valves within the product so they can isolate the bottle filler and make a quick change out. All of the parts within that bottle filler are quick clip plugins as well. So anytime a sensor goes bad, high school students hit it really hard with their Yeti or something like that.
And the Stanleys, it's the Stanleys now, Mitch.
That is definitely the new niche for the week. You gotta
get with the times.
We'll see.
I didn't know.
We'll see which person.
I have an upcoming teen. I have a teen now, so sorry.
So am I out now with the
you're so out of you're so out of it, Todd.
Few generations back.
Just a couple.
That seems fitting.
Just like bell-bottom jeans, Hydroflex.
That's right.
One day.
So we have talked about a lot of and before I get to this next feature, which is something I want to kind of make a standout feature of the maintenance advantages. A couple other things I do want to mention, Mitch, before I get to that. Let's talk about the fact that if you are removing one of our competitors' units and you're going to replace our bracket, their bracket will work with our unit. You can hang our unit right onto the competitor's bracket, and the plumbing is going to line up as well. So it's a very, very simple retro if you are taking out a competitor of ours unit and putting in a Murdoch. Could you talk to that just a little bit, Mitch?
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's going to come back down to that installation replacement advantage, changing it into ADA standards, all these different things on, products that have been out in the field for 15 or 20 years. So at Murdoch, we wanted to make that as simple as possible, doing demolition on concrete, especially fancy terrazzo tile, moving drain lines and water lines can be very time consuming, very labor intensive, and very material cost intensive. So we wanted to make it as seamless as possible. So So we've got a lot of different options. On your standard indoor product, like what's behind Todd there, that Todd is exactly right. We're going to hang on the same 3-prong bracket as the competitor is. We're going to have their same footprint, and we're going to have the same rough end dimensions for your water, your waste, and your electrical to make it a very easy 1-for-1 swap. I've seen as fast as 45 minutes from someone taking even a bi-level off the wall, installing our product in place, and getting it up and running and ready to go.
Wow.
So that's a huge advantage. But we also have a full line of, retrofittable products for, a lot of the things that you've been in the field for 20 or 30 years, a lot of the on-wall stuff, what we call the bird bath, where you've got the arms coming out from a flat stainless panel. What a lot of people are looking today is to move from that over to something with a bottle filler. So, what they're trying to do is go with something like the product, our A17 series behind Todd there. But the issue is they're going to have to take all those water lines down about 18 inches, which can be very time consuming and costly.
Sure.
So we've actually retrofitted and done a retrofit cooler. So we can either do the A17 that's behind Todd, that's got different cutouts in it. It has the drain line and the water line a little bit higher. So they can hang it in that existing location and still meet ADA specifications around knee clearance and reach height to the bubbler. Or we also have something called our BF2, which can be retrofitted directly onto the back of those products. They'll come with 2 different size trays to ensure that the water from the bottle filler drains out into the existing drain line of what is in the wall. And we've saved people upwards of $5,000 on not having, 2 to 3 weeks of labor plus the material cost. It's something that once they're comfortable with, they can do in an hour. So it's a great aspect of, keeping an eye on what's out there, how to be innovative, and how to work with what's out there without really having to, redesign everything every single time.
I'll tell you, one of the compliments I get in the field from contractors who are installing Murdoch is, a couple of things. Fewer parts inside the unit, so they actually have room inside the unit to put their hands. I think we have somewhere of near 40 fewer parts inside this unit behind me versus our competitor. A lot of room to get the hands in there and work. But the other compliment, Mitch, that I got, I totally wasn't expecting this, but somebody said, my hands never come out of the unit cut up. You guys actually radius all of the stainless steel that's exposed in this thing, and you round the corners on it. And that's a compliment I never would have expected. But I've had several contractors now tell me that's one of the favorite things about a Murdoch is just the amount of space and that they don't cut themselves.
Absolutely. And, on the aspect of, the sharp corners, stainless is a very sharp product, especially when you start cutting it and breaking it. One thing that we do that we take a lot of pride in is the people inside of our factory who build these products. In every step of the way, we build these products all the way from a raw piece of stainless, break it into the corners, design it, add into the brakes, all these things, weld the valves in, put the compressors in, is all done by hand by our people. So they're very proud of their work. One thing that we do that a lot of people do differently is on the back of the unit, so the back of the portion that sits up against the wall where those water lines come in, we want to make it as easy as possible to install that. So we've actually made the opening about 50% larger than most of our competition. We do understand that not installs go perfectly, and a lot of those replacements, need a little bit of that extra room to work. But in addition, we make sure that there's no 90-degree corners. Sharp angled steel is never a good thing, and we also take it and we buff down those corners. We take the time to deburr that stainless, make it as safe as possible for these guys to handle in the field with their hands. We don't ever want to see, somebody using our products and get hurt ever. So we do everything that we can to make sure that they are, as safe to use as possible. The aspect of all of the room on the inside of our product. So on our site that I'll share a link to as well at the end of this, you can kind of see a top-down spec if you were to stand above that water cooler and look down and see all the parts inside of it. A Murdoch water cooler has 27 parts inside of it. Most of our competition are around 65 to 80 parts inside of that. And that's very heavily around the fact that we are mechanically operated, where a lot of our competition utilizes a solenoid system. So solenoid systems is an electronic valve where, a button is telling that valve to open and close, as opposed to the pressure of your hand opening and closing that regulator. It takes a lot of wires, a lot of computer boards, and it takes up a lot of space in there. And that's where that hour and a half comes to change out those regulators. All those wires need to be unplugged. That valve needs to be removed. And then hopefully when you go to put it all together, you remember where wires go, or, you're going to make a few phone calls to the manufacturer to figure out where to properly put them to make sure you get it wired right. So that's opened up a lot of space in there for those guys to get their hands. And, we've even started to innovate on a few of our features to open up even more space inside that product to make sure that the installation, the rough end, goes smoothly.
So if I heard you correctly, if we lose power to the unit, it's going to continue to work.
Yep,
right?
absolutely. So that is going to be the largest benefit of a mechanically operated system. So inside that product, you've got a plug that's going to run your compression system. That is what
Mhm.
is creating cold water. So in a power loss environment, we have become very popular in places like Oklahoma for tornadoes, the Carolinas for hurricanes, where they're utilizing schools and large facilities like libraries as, shelter in place locations
Mhm.
for inclement weather. When they lose power, they're still able to get a filtered, clean drink of water out of a Murdoch unit. They just simply lose the aspect to make that water cold until power returns to the product, which is a great benefit for us. Our standard product on the bottle filler will work on a solenoid, but of course we do offer a full line of true push button mechanically operated units, so that entire unit doesn't become a paperweight on the wall in a power loss failure.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. It's a great feature of the units.
All right, Mitch. Well, we have been talking about all of these great maintenance advantages, but we cannot continue on without talking about the newest and I think one of the most exciting new features on the Murdoch cooler, which is the Easy Door to change out filters. So, can we talk about that next, Mitch?
Yes, absolutely. It's something we are very excited about at Murdoch, something we're very proud of. From my years in the field, filter changeouts have become very, very popular, much more prevalent. People are, really taking a look at what's in their water, and they want to
Yeah.
make sure that what they're drinking is nice and clean and safe. So filters as a whole have become very popular. But the one thing we wanted to do, back to square one more time on that maintenance advantage, is to make it easy for these guys to change it out. Again, traditionally that filter has been down in the shroud of the product. Those guys have to get down on the ground, remove bolts, shut off the water supply, change out their filter. And some of these places, like, large airports, large universities have 200, 300, 400 of these on site.
Yeah.
It can be incredibly time consuming when it's taking 5 to 10 minutes for these guys to change out a filter.
Mhm.
So in October of 2022 was when we made this change over to this and started manufacturing our Easy Door compatible water coolers, as well as our Easy Door kit for these to be installed. So of course they are, like many of our products, retrofittable to any product that has been manufactured after October 2021. So anybody who is looking for filtration, to be added later, of course, it is not something that you have to buy at the time of the product. So what this Easy Door kit here that Todd's showing off for me as the beautiful Vanna White stand-in is our Easy
Isn't he
Door.
looks just like her too,
Oh,
right?
oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
The Easy Door assembly kit. So back to kind of square one, with us not having as many parts, not having the wires and the solenoid valves inside of our product, it's given us a lot of space to make an innovation to the inside of a water cooler. So we've taken that filter away from that location, which is traditionally in front of the electrical plug, right next to the drain and right next to the water inlet. Makes a very tight space for these contractors to get their hands in there and change it out even once that shroud's off. It's another thing that we've been able to do without these guys having to get down on the ground. So you utilize that maintenance tool. There's a quarter turn lock that's on the bottom of that to make sure that it's not easily opened, as well as a braided cable connecting to that door so it does not swing open and hit a knee. It will always fall to a perfect 45-degree angle. And then that filter is housed right behind that push button, slides right up and in there. And is away and we go. So we've got videos from guys in our factory who have kind of made it a challenge. I think the record stands at 33 seconds for a change out
Wow.
Yeah,
right
that's
now.
awesome. I knew it was under
Uh,
a minute. Had to
Yeah.
but
be.
uh, but most people when I do a presentation in a field, I like to ask people to see if they have, how fast it takes, and it's usually about 60 to 70 seconds. So it's a
Yeah.
very
That's
quick
great.
change out, and it allows these guys to do them in batches very quickly. So there's always going to be a message light on our bottle filler when that filter has depleted its gallon lifespan, whether it's
Mhm.
1,500 or 3,000, the two we offer. Of course, anybody manufacturing and selling filters is going to recommend a change of a year, even if it hasn't reached that limit,
Mhm.
just to keep it fresh. But what we'll have is just a message that runs across that bottle counter. It says, please change filter soon. It allows that main guy to walk up, quickly change it, hit a button, reset that filter, and carry on. Or, for a school district to put it on a preventative maintenance program. They change it out at the end of the summer, so they're very fresh, brand new filters for week
Mhm.
one. They'll change the gymnasium one a few extra times with,
Yeah.
so many people going in and out
Sure.
of there. But then they change it again around winter or spring break, and that gets them through the year, and it gives them that ability to do them all at once instead of one at a time, which a lot of the competitors demand just due to the time constraint around. it. So it's been a huge advantage for us. The filters themselves, I would love to talk about. They all carry the highest ratings for filtration today, which would be NSF 42, NSF 53, and NSF 371. So NSF 371 says that assembly itself, the filter itself, does not have any lead. It is a plastic, body with a coconut carbon activated carbon media on the inside. No lead in any of those items. So we obviously have that certification. Your NSF 53 is probably the most important, very largely around lead and contaminant reduction levels. So we will reduce down to 1 micron, which is basically the top tier of filtration today. And then 42 deals with the aesthetics. So making sure that that doesn't have anything floating in it, that water is a nice, clear, beautiful glass to look through. And all of those certifications are on every single filter that goes out the door with these Murdoch products.
That's so cool. I'm so excited about the drop down. I just think it's such an amazing feature and it's gonna change the world for people who have to do maintenance on these coolers. It really does.
Just when you thought it couldn't get better, it did.
That's right. Absolutely. Exactly.
And filtered clean water is a great thing. We're starting to see a lot of different states have legislation around it, very heavily focused into the school districts, making sure that our kids, as they're growing and learning, are drinking clean, healthy water. As
absolutely, it's so important.
Lead concerns are huge concern in our country around lead. So we're very happy to be kind of on the forefront of mitigating that as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Great. And then, speaking to keeping people safe, let's talk a little bit about the chiller that's in our unit. And there is a safety aspect that I'm going to have Mitch explain to us about the chiller, but we use this, chiller, for lack of a better word, right, Mitch? Instead of having a storage tank inside the unit. And go ahead and speak to that, Mitch, again, why this is an advantage over having a storage tank inside the unit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just a little background on, how your water cooler makes your water cold. What Todd's holding there is what's called an evaporator coil. It is part of the refrigeration loop. Inside of your fridge at home, inside of your mini fridges at a college dorm, one of those will be in there. It's very common on how, we create, cold weather environments, cold water environments. So very similar to what a lot of manufacturers do is as Todd will hold that up there, you'll see that there's 2 independent water lines. So that thicker line on the inside, that is going to be your water supply line. It's going to go all the way around that. Well, it's going around that, and as you'll see, they're not perfect circles. They've been kind of ovaled out to increase the surface area contact of that tube with that smaller tube that's welded on there. That smaller tube that's welded on there is going to run R134A refrigerant, a very cold Freon type thing that you'll find in a lot of refrigerant type systems. These 2 tubes are 100% independent. They cannot cross-contaminate ever. They are in completely different loops of system. So the way that works is that cold R134A going across, making that surface contact with that other copper type tube, that is all copper tube that Todd was just holding there. That is what's going to take your water from on average in the US, it's about an 80-degree inlet temperature. And what we'll deliver by the engineer's specification is 50-degree water. The big benefit to what we do differently is we act a lot like a tankless chiller. So a lot of our competitors, they will loop around that water and then they'll dump into about a half-gallon stainless steel reservoir that's usually crimped onto a plastic valve, and that has the inlet and outlet for the drinkable water. The downside to that initially is, kind of like we talked about with the Stanleys, everybody's carrying a 30, 60, 80 ounce jug these days. That half gallon in my competitors is like a tank type water heater. When you've got a large family, I grew up with 3 sisters. If you're the last one to take the shower, the water's no longer hot. It's very similar with the cold water that our competitors deliver. When that half gallon depletes in that first 1 or 2 Yetis, the 4th, 5th, 6th person in line for that bottle filler is probably going to get something close to 70 or 80-degree water since it's ambient and that system just simply can't keep up with it. With ours, we act like a tankless, an instantaneous cooler. So we're delivering that 50-degree water. It takes us a few minutes just to even get to 55 and then to 60, and we have a much slower climb, so you're always providing that nice cold drink. But the big advantage of it is, something that we really saw a lot of during COVID, where people were putting garbage bags over bubblers or taping off water coolers. Now the competition had about a half gallon of withstanding stagnant water, especially in environments like schools where, they're not going to run the AC when people aren't in the building. So it's a warmer environment, heavier risk for bacterial growth. So, of course, we're never going to 100% be able to alleviate it, but it is a safer, more effective way to chill water, where every bit of water in that product is, it's substantially less now, but of course it's in either antimicrobial copper or within a poly, in which can't leach as well.
That's great. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's, I mean, just everything you list when you talk about these Murdochs, just another advantage, another reason to buy Murdoch. So
absolutely. And that's, and that's wholeheartedly to, the response we get from the field, the response that our lovely reps across the country bring us, and of course the engineers that we have internal who are willing to make these adjustments, make these product changes, and stay current with the market as it changes and innovates.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mitch. This has been fantastic. So much great information. And how can our contractors and wholesalers and engineers get more information on Murdoch water coolers and the maintenance advantage?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, for the audience, always reach out to PM and Associates. They're always never more than one call from me, one call from Bob Murdoch. They have a fantastic team. They're very easy to work with. I've had the pleasure of working with them, not just with Murdoch, but in a few of my past lives as well. So always use them as their first resource. Of course, our website's a fantastic resource. So www.murdochmfg.com. And that will focus on everything. If you want to see just the maintenance, the same website, /easy-maintenance, and we'll highlight every feature that we've talked about today during the podcast. For those of you across the country, we do have a full rep agency map. Our partners are the best rep agency in the industry. Please reach out to them. They're fantastic to work with. All our literature is online. All of our spec sheets, our engineer tools like our BIMs and Revit models are all online. Or of course, please reach out to myself anytime. I'm always available. I've got on Mountain Coast time, so gives me enough time to basically cover the whole country in a day. Makes it very easy.
That's
awesome,
fantastic.
Mitch. Thank you so much.
Yes,
I also want to throw in that we have this unit. It's a mobile unit essentially. So, and it has been on tour a lot, but we will bring the Murdoch unit to you. If you're interested in learning more about Murdoch, we'll bring this bad boy out to any event or to your school district or whatever, and happily show you the maintenance advantages that Murdoch can offer you. So Mitch, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate all the information. It was a ton of information, but all very good stuff. So we can't thank you enough, man.
Absolutely. And as Mitch mentioned, you can always reach out to PM and Associates for more information on Murdoch at p-massoc.com. Thank you again, Mitch. It's been wonderful today. Thank you so much for being a guest here on Let That Sink In.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Todd. Looking forward to seeing you guys out your way soon.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
All
Mitch.
right. Have a great day.